According to the group Launching a Leadership Revolution, the very first step to conflict resolution is to affirm the relationship. Let the other party know right away that you value the relationship more than you value your own comfort level or the details of the conflict. And the hard part is you have to actually mean it. Before you address the other person, take time to reflect and make sure you really do value the other person and your relationship with him or her more than you value being right or being heard. When you affirm the other person and do so in a genuine way, it settles a lot of defensive emotions that keep people from tackling the real issue. Secondly, listen to understand. Give the other party an opportunity to share their perspective before you jump in with your own. Listening to understand starts with asking good questions. When you ask someone a question, you show them you value their thoughts. Listening to their answers also helps you correct any misconceptions you originally had and help you come to an understanding. Questions like, what did you mean when you said this? Or, what I think you are saying is... Those types of questions will get you on the right track. Thirdly, lovingly seek to be understood. And the key word here is lovingly. How someone feels when they hear you communicate is often more important than what you are actually communicating. Long after the meeting is over, people may not remember exactly what was said, but they will remember how they felt in the meeting. Keep your tone mild, genuine, and gentle, and the other party will have an easier time understanding your perspective. Fourth, take personal responsibility. After all perspectives have been shared and understood, take responsibility for any part you played in creating the conflict and apologize. This is important whether your actions were misinterpreted by the other party or not. Perspective is one's reality. Genuinely apologize for what you did or said that the other person perceived as offensive. And last, seek agreement and move on. Agreement may come about in a variety of ways. If steps 1 through 4 went well, a simple process of compromising can usually begin. Perhaps there's still difficulty for one or both parties to understand the other perspective. In this case, inviting a neutral third party to the conversation is helpful. Maybe emotions are still too high for steps 1 through 4 to be successful. In this case, allowing more time before you start the process could be a good option. After agreement has been reached, move forward in a healthy, positive direction. This is done by purposefully and positively feeding the relationship. Just like the second law of thermodynamics, if relationships aren't improving, they won't remain static. They'll backtrack. Make agreements with each other for future behavior. Agree to not listen to rumors and talk directly with each other. Agree to give each other the benefit of the doubt and ask each other questions. Agree to focus on each other's strengths rather than weaknesses. Everyone can learn from a good story. And what is a story without a good conflict, right? In my first year as an assistant principal, I ran into an unexpected conflict with one of our first-year teachers. First-year AP plus first-year teacher, there's bound to be some mistakes made. And this particular teacher had been dealing with a rather difficult student all year and had faced some real challenges. One day, as I was passing through her hallway, she caught me out in the hall and quickly asked what I thought about the student not going on the upcoming field trip. I asked if there had been a previous arrangement put in place with the parents' approval for the field trip to be optional based on behavior. She said no, and that his behavior had been extra challenging lately, and she just foresaw a lot of potential problems with him on the trip. I must have made a face that looked something like this, and then said, well, I don't think that's fair to the student then. Since the field trip is just a few days away, I think he needs to go. I'll talk to the principal and see what he thinks. She had her class in the room with her, which didn't give us a lot of time to talk further, so I left after that. I know, every teacher listening to this is going, not a good move, Ani. You have to show your teacher more support than that. And you would be right. From the teacher's perspective, she was anxious about her first field trip and doing it with a very challenging student in tow. She was looking for some support and some answers from her experienced AP. From my perspective, I was concerned for the fairness of the student and what the parent would think having her son miss out just days away without a previous agreement. Due to the hastiness of the moment, being stopped in a hallway while the class was in session, there wasn't ample time to make sure both perspectives were communicated clearly. The next day, the teacher was in the principal's office in tears. She felt that I didn't trust her and thought poorly of her and her abilities to handle her students. Unfortunately, it wasn't until weeks later, and tensions were higher, that I realized I needed to carefully go through the process mentioned earlier in this video. I affirmed our relationship first by surprising her with an extra 30-minute break in the afternoon when student behaviors were more challenging. I sent her to my office while I took over her class. And in my office was a magazine, a Coke, and a handwritten card from me affirming her and my value for her. From there, we went through the other steps. I listened to her perspective, she listened to mine, and together we reached an agreement for future scenarios that we both could live with. My relationship with this teacher turned out to be one of the best relationships I had at the school. Conflict management is not always fun, and it's certainly not easy, but it's unavoidable. And following the steps described in this video will help you tremendously. And hopefully, your relationships will be stronger than ever when you get on the other side. Take time to reflect on this thought. Think of creative ways to affirm the relationships in your life. Coming up with ideas now, before conflict arises, will help you when tensions make it more difficult.